Temporary exhibition, shelter, wellbeing. First floor of the Abbot's Granary. The first floor of the Abbot's Granary displays objects related to animal husbandry, farm work, and everyday life. Here we will read texts about past farming and today's challenges of agriculture. The exhibition shelter Wellbeing sets new works by students of the Faculty of Design at the Academy of Fine Arts Gdańsk among exhibits from the collection of the Ethnography Department of the National Museum in Gdańsk. As part of the Renovations project, they created modern, functional objects whose forms reference ethnographic artifacts. Among the historical objects connected with beekeeping and honey harvesting, we can find the shelter for solitary bees, designed by Zuzanna Franczak. It is a small, dark grey object in the form of a cylinder with a diameter and height of about 30 centimeters. On top of it is a simple round cover. The surface of the walls of the shelter is formed by an open-work construction of closely adjacent cubes. It is evidently honeycomb-like. Behind it, circular openings of twisted S-shaped wooden tubes are visible, creating space for the solitary bees. In another part of the exhibition, there is a reinterpretation of a herb cutter which was created by Julia Brach. The object made by the student is placed next to its precursor from the early 20th century. The cutter from the museum's collection is made up of 3 dark, cast iron and semicircular blades which are connected by 2 short metal rods spaced a few centimeters apart. The central blade has as its ends, at the top, 2 knobs, grips that allow the tool to be operated. The student's design was made from a single sheet of metal, broken in a curve at the top of the tool. Its form is more complex and less obvious compared to the item just described. It does not merely have joined blades. The cutting part looks like a tall chef's knife. The blade sheath seamlessly goes upwards and turns into handles. This creates 2 blades connected at the bottom and a semicircular form with handles at the top. If the viewer looks at the modern cutter from the front, its shape can resemble the fit of the blouse with a large neckline, a cutout in a metal between the handles, 3/4 sleeves, i.e. handle shanks, and a flared bottom, i.e. cutter's blades. The 21st century cutter is made of bright high-polished metal. This allows it to reflect its more than century-old predecessor set next to it. In the center of the room, there is the work Arnstedt by Norwegian artist Paul Lersven. The title of the work in Norwegian means the place where something started and the center of action. The video is projected onto fabric. The fabric is spread between the wooden pillars that support the ceiling. It fully fits the almost square space between the ceiling, the floor, and the 2 pillars. The area created by the fabric is viewable from both sides. The video is a montage of 2 alternating sequences. The whole thing lasts just over 3 minutes and is looped. One sequence is a large, intimate close-up of a piece of skin on a man's lower neck. Only a small section of the body is contained within the frame. Through the close-up, an irregular grid of the fine wrinkles and bumps of the epidermis is visible. In the upper left part of the frame are little single hairs of the dark beard, a few millimeters in reality and several centimeters on the projection. The right part of the frame is filled with an almost vertical line, which is built up by a flexed neck tendon. The face or head of the subject must be in motion during the recording. This is reflected in the tension and movement of the tendon and the slight vibrations of the model's entire skin. His slight, subtle movements seem to be an expression of looking for room, fitting in, and arranging his body in space. The second sequence is an animation showing a male muscular leg cut out of the rest of the body, additionally multiplied, shown 4 or 5 times. The leg, or rather a number of the same legs, is only captured in fragments, either up to the knee or up to the upper thigh. They are shown to the viewer horizontally, parallel to the floor. Behind them is a solid black background. The upper, anatomical extremity of each leg is in the center of the square frame and the feet are at the edge. Added to this is a mirror image, that is, the legs from the center of the frame align feet both towards the left edge of the video and towards the right edge. At the same time, what happens on the left does not correspond to the actions or gestures of the legs on the right. And all the legs are performing tranquil movements, stepping on the spot, spinning around their own axis, striding. Although there are several 5 to 6 legs on either side, only one of them is moving at a time. In a way, it looks like a drowsy, slightly laborious stretching of the picture frame. The curators of the exhibition point out, Paul Leeshven is fascinated by the tradition of wood building, and through his video he interacts with the granary building and seeks his place in the confined space of the museum. He pushes the wooden pillars apart. His body becomes part of the architecture. Another work that has found its haven among the ethnographic exhibits on display in the Abbott's Granary is a triptych by Norwegian artist Leigh Kenvik. These are 3 photographs on circular discs which were created as a part of As I Say It series and as a part of the Ink and Blood project. The sizes of the circles are identical, with diameters of about 60 centimeters. They are suspended in the space of the room at a height of about 1.5 meters above the floor. They are placed in line with a distance of 20 centimeters between them. The audience views them against a backdrop of museum exhibits, including an ornate dark wood dowry chest. The photographs are representation of abstract sights, the result of spilling black ink and rusted red blood in another solution. The photographs are 3 stills, freezes in motion. The structures built up by ink and blood are ephemeral, looking like lazily flowing columns of smoke, or, on the contrary, dynamic, expanding vapors of gas or dust. The entire work is maintained in an unsettling color palette dominated by rust, blood reds, whitened browns, and a black that stands out strongly from the rest. The photograph on the left may resemble the edge of an open forest with the tall trees stripped of most of their foliage, behind which the orange and the red of the setting sun spread. But all these illusory shapes are built up by a smudgy texture of dark ink. The image in the center is the most dynamic. It consists of 2 small quasi-explosions, quasi-clouds, obtained by rapidly pouring more blood into the solution. These irregular shapes are in the center and in the upper part of the circular disc. In the lower parts, the blood thickens and merges into droplets, which were photographed at the beginning of the slow fall. In the lower part of the disc, there is a structure of diluted blood that waves slightly as a result of the bold gesture described earlier. This part of the object resembles a serene, smoldering flame. The circular photograph on the right has the least bloodiness in its color scheme. It is dominated by a muted, whitened brown that builds up the background of the composition. Columns of the dissolved ink have been photographed on this surface, which seems to enter the picture frame from below. The black stands out strongly from the rest of the picture. Most of it is in the left part of the picture. Near the center and on the right are smaller and looser patches obtained by infusing the blood there. The author of these works has utilized blood and ink. For her, blood is what connects us all. It flows in our veins. It is a symbol of life, but it's also a taboo subject. Ink is a symbol of civilization. The first cave drawing, histories written on the pages of books, collective memory. Ink is a way of transmitting knowledge. These abstract forms enchant and unsettle at the same time. They are beyond real element and stand out strongly against the white walls of the granary and the wooden fixtures of the museum hall. Visitors are led to the 2nd floor of the exhibition by a work entitled Meanders by Anita Wasik. It is a hand-woven carpet hung on the wall above the staircase. It is almost 6 meters long. It hangs on the wall by the staircase at the height of about 100-140 centimeters. The object was inspired by the appearance of the river, with vegetation growing on the banks, shallows and depths, water flowing between the stones. This calm, patchwork representation consists of fields of strands of different colors and textures. The dominant colors are blues of varying intensities, sometimes very lightened, sometimes intensely deep navy blue. The sandbanks are built up by browns and beiges, and the vegetation by the longest threads of green and jade, which stick out slightly in front of the piece. The carpet river meanders into sinuous shapes, reminiscent of waves. The river's bends correspond to the color changes of the water flow. The different shades seamlessly intermingle, creating an entirety and imitation of calm movement, of unforced continuity. The carpet is very varied. Some yarns are softer, some more stiff, some are longer, some shorter. There are also elements shaped as if they were in a riverbed. Stones, reeds, water whirlpools, shallows, sand on the banks. All of these can and should be touched with your hand while climbing the stairs. Meanders wind their way along the snow-white wall, inviting interaction, exploring the variety of textures and waves. And the sensory experiences enhance the transition to the next floor of the granary.